Welcome to the Adjusting to College Life student panel. We have cat chats every week from 4 to 4:45 here in Leisure 13. So this week I have an array of students to answer some questions that a lot of incoming freshmen or just people new to campus have. So first we're going to go down the line. Give us your name, your year, and your major, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so I'm Max Jenkins. I'm a junior here at K-State, so it's my third year, and I am a psychology major, philosophy minor.
My name is Matt Burnett. This is my fourth and final year at K-State, and I'm studying nutritional science with a minor in Spanish.
My name is Alex Bonter. I'm a microbiology major with a minor in Spanish, and I am a junior.
My name is Whitney Gooch. I'm also a junior in psychology, working on a minor in leadership studies.
My name's Natalie Leonard. I have a major in Spanish, and I'm trying to figure out what my other major is going to be, and I'm a sophomore.
Awesome. So we're just going to start with some basic questions. Not everyone has to answer if you don't want to. So first of all, what made you choose K-State? Anyone can answer.
Do you have an answer? Oh. Well, my answer is pretty easy. I didn't really care where I went to school. I know some people really had the dream school set out in high school where they really wanted to go, but for me, it was less about where I went. I could be happy and I could get the most out of my education wherever I went. So it was more about, family ties. And I grew up in Denver, Colorado, but I have a strong family presence on my dad's side out here in Kansas, and he's actually alumni from the 70s here. So it made him happy that I came here, and I ended up just doing it for him, and I've loved it ever since.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can go. So for me, I am like a third or fourth generation K-Stater. I was at football games before I could walk. K-State and Manhattan have always kind of felt like a second home to me. So like being on campus truly feels like home, and I could not have pictured myself anywhere else.
Awesome. So when you came to K-State, obviously it's typically a very huge adjustment for students coming from whether it's a small high school with graduating with 50 people, or you're graduating with 400. So within that adjustment, what were some stressors that you encountered during your first year or first semester?
I think the biggest difference between high school and college would be having to figure out where every piece of your life fits instead of having that built in. So like in high school, you would have like lunchtime with your friends, or you got done with school at like 3:30 and you were done for the day. Whereas in college, your schedule is crazy. You might have a job, you have tons of homework to do, lots of studying, and it's hard to figure out like when to eat or when to hang out with your friends, or if hanging out with friends is appropriate, and like how much time you can dedicate to each thing. So balance.
Okay.
For me, one thing that I thought was kind of a struggle from high school to college would be like high school kind of came easy to me. Like I had really good teachers, and I studied hard, and it wasn't that bad. But once I got to college, it was I had like a really hard workload. And so I got used to going to tutoring in Holtz Hall, especially for Spanish. And that was really, really helpful. And my sister also told me that she's a science major, and she said that there's SAS tutoring in Fiedler, the engineering building. And she said that helped her tremendously. It still does.
Anybody else?
I guess for me, it was less academics and changing like my day-to-day life, as it was a culture shock. Like I said, I grew up in a different state, and coming out here and not really knowing anyone in my close-knit circle of friends that I've had my whole life back home, and really having to come out of my shell and introduce myself, kind of reinvent myself in a way, and not necessarily just accepting that my culture back home was my own, but kind of understanding other cultures and kind of learning more. We have international students here at K-State. We have Western Kansas. We have Kansas City. And just learning all about the different cultures and how I fit into the larger K-State student body was kind of a big culture shock, but I figured it out.
Hello, welcome.
Hello.
So you all have good points, and we're going to address all of them. First of all, I want to address how you balanced everything. I know some of you are involved in some student organizations. Can you tell me, each of you tell me maybe what you're involved in, including Greek life, and how you're able to prioritize and use time management skills?
So I mean, one thing for me is I work 2 jobs. I'm a building manager over at the union, and then I work at counseling services with Wendy Barnes, or outreach coordinator as a peer educator. And then, working with the Pause group are like a lot of my responsibilities that I have to do. So like one way is just kind of sitting down with myself and figuring out, like prioritizing that between schoolwork and like homework and all the other like work responsibilities I have, and really just taking a look at what all that is, just wholesale, and then starting to break it down into smaller chunks so I can start to organize a schedule and whatnot.
Yeah, he kind of touched on a little bit. Scheduling is key. For myself, as is Alex, we're pre-med, and for that you kind of have to do a lot of extracurriculars, which means that you have to be involved, and not only be involved, but take leadership positions, which takes extra time. And as is Max and the rest of the panel here, we're a part of a student organization, Pause, which works with counseling services to provide, student outreach for mental health topics, a variety. And so the biggest thing for me, like I started on, is our organization. So I rely heavily on my planner, and so I organize not really my weekly schedule, but down to the hour, just to know where I'm available and when I'm not, just so I don't overload myself, which will decrease my overall stress and increase my productivity. And being able to say no to things I can't make time for is really important.
We're all involved in Pause. Matt is also in a fraternity, and then us 4 are in Greek life. And then I do biochemical research at K-State, and am like nominally involved in like a couple other clubs that I've dipped my toes into. And then I have a job as well. I work about like 15 to 20 hours a week with that. And so like Max and Matt said, scheduling is super important. I would recommend, if you have like extra reading time, to check out Cal Newport's book, Deep Work. And that's about how to maximize your efficiency with the time that you do have. And basically the summary of that is I have tried, and it works for me, is like eliminating distractions when I do need to get stuff done. So that way I have time to do the things that I want to do for fun. So that means like shutting your phone off, shutting your notifications off when you get the little email ping, and just like really getting down to work for a couple of hours, and then you could do all the other things. Another thing that I like rely on, and it seems counterintuitive, but like scheduling free time or scheduling time to kind of take care of yourself. I also schedule when I sleep, but that's like it's important to get sleep, because then you won't be effective if you're not sleeping. But taking time to take care of yourself can actually like increase your efficiency. So whether that be like taking a bath, or painting your nails, or going to the gym and working out, or like just being quiet, or sitting outside, or hammocking, I don't know, whatever you want to do, just like doing something that's fun to you that can kind of like release that stress load, and then getting back to work, just like keeping your eye on the bigger picture and not getting too caught up in the details.
Yeah. So like Alex said, in addition to Pause and Greek life, I also represent the Staley School of Leadership Studies as an ambassador. So sometimes it can get a little hairy as to like, oh, we've got a booth, or who's covering it. We've got a tour, and like making sure that everything gets covered. And for me, my first instinct is to always be that person who says, yeah, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. So learning to like when to step back and maybe let somebody else have a chance to step up and do it. Another thing for me, Google Calendar became my best friend when I started college. Not only in like keeping my classes straight and like, where am I going? What time is class done? But seeing like that 1 hour break and saying, okay, I'm going to read a chapter for X class, or I'm going to work on homework for another class, you know, and really making use of that time. Because like in high school, you're from school to 8:30 to 3:30 and you have class and then you do your homework at home. And I tried that my freshman year and it did not work, at least for me. So being able to like utilize your free time, but also knowing that you can like kind of multitask with it. So you can go on study dates and still be hanging out with your friends and feeling like you're being social while also being productive towards your academics.
Yeah, I really like that. Definitely, I do a lot of study dates with my friends because it does just kind of make me feel better about like all the hours I'm putting into homework. But also, there's so many cool activities you can get involved in at K-State, and there's like a club for everyone. And so I would just say that if you're looking at all of the clubs offered here, choose ones that you're truly interested in so that when you go to those meetings and like you help volunteer through them, it doesn't feel like, oh, I have to go to my club or like I have to go to my meeting, but it's kind of like this is enriching me. I definitely feel like that with like volunteer work I do. It never feels like a waste of time, even though it's something else in my schedule in addition to like my academic load. So that's my little bit.
Awesome. So touching on the academics now, it's quite a change for a lot of students to go from, you know, you're in school from 8 to 3 every day, and now you get to schedule your classes. What is your advice on how to effectively and efficiently schedule your classes and get that homework in? How much time are you spending on homework per class? Or any study tips that helped you study more effectively?
Song? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I kind of overkill it a little bit. I usually study around 28 hours a week, which is a lot. So that ends up being about 4 hours a day. But that's probably like way too much. Probably would not recommend that. I would say probably you want to start with about 3 hours a week per class. Does that sound reasonable? Yeah. Something that I do is I set timers. And so, like I said before, like working without distractions, I'll set like a 60-minute timer. And then once that's over, like maybe then after I've completed my 60 minutes of one task, I can check my phone and then I put it away and restart the timer and then move on to the next thing. So I literally have graph paper and I have little boxes and I say, I'm going to do an hour of biochemistry. I'm going to do an hour of Spanish. I'm going to do an hour of something else. And as I complete them, I fill my boxes in, and then like once it's done, it's done. So that's something that I like to do when I study.
I think a big thing for me when I was a freshman is learning like where to study is also really effective. So I know it can be really tempting to like just lay in your bed and like read your class readings or your textbook or whatever. But that's not good for your sleep hygiene. So for me, I found a spot my freshman year where I did like all my studying. The faculty in the building, like honestly thought I lived there. It was kind of bad. But it was effective because it gives you a chance to kind of change your environment. And like if you're in the dorms, your dorm room is where you can like relax or get ready for classes or whatever. And it really like helps your attention. Because you're like, I am in this space, and in this space, I get things done. So it also kind of helps, as Alex was saying, eliminating distractions and in like helping your focus. So, anybody else?
Another key thing. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. I mean, another thing is, I know it's tempting to like cram for things, especially like that first year when you're trying to get your workflow down. And that's like just cramming, you know, for like 8 hours straight is just often not effective. So, I mean, trying to build in, even when you're studying on like normal times, you know, little breaks just break up the monotony. So you can retain that information, sit on it, and think about it for a while thoughtfully instead of just going all the way through quantity over quality.
I kind of wanted to touch on the organization aspect of it a little bit. It was mentioned earlier that, there's a big difference between the scheduling of high school versus college. And it's all laid out for you in your syllabus, your first day of class. And it was really helped me out in the last couple of years of college have been knowing when my tests are, and not only when they are, but what they're over, to where I can kind of see the bigger picture and see where my notes are going, to where I'm not focusing my attention on the wrong information and not necessarily studying as efficiently as I could alongside, planning and where to study and all the different habit side of it. It's, have a better head on you as you go through that process. Something to add?
Something that I think it's sensationalized in college to be like busy and exhausted. So something that I would definitely recommend, I know it's like tempting to think in the college mindset that you have to pull an all-nighter to make something happen, or you have to study all night for something, but really for the sake of like your overall retention rates and your overall the quality of learning that you're going to get by studying all night long is going to be very poor. Retention rates are like historically very low. Scientifically, you can look up all of the studies on that. And then the more sleep you get, the more like memory base you can form around the things that you're learning. And so I would definitely recommend like going to bed at night. You don't have to drink 3,000 cups of coffee a day. I sometimes drink around that much, but you can switch to decaf. It's fine. You're going to be okay. So I would just recommend getting sleep. I think that's something that gets forgotten in like studying well.
Thanks.
And keep thinking of random things as we're talking about this, but understand what kind of student you are and what the best way of learning and taking in that information be, whether it be auditory or visual or a little bit of both. I tend to be more on the visual video side and understanding that for all the information you learn in class, there's supplemental information taught by other people online, to where you feel like you're falling behind in class and you can't really catch up with the way that the information is being told. That, we have a whole online database of resources, which could be better applied to you, to where you're not saying, I can't do this, to be like, well, this is difficult for me, but I will find something to where there's a solution to it. And then alongside with that is, are you more of a morning studier or an afternoon studier, and just really finding out who you are as a student, and understanding who you are, to where once you get that figured out, then you can then not have to worry about it and then tackle college as it is. So
This is a good topic.
So one thing that I learned the hard way in my first semester is that tutoring has a very different connotation in college. Sometimes in high school, if you think about having to go to a tutor, it can be kind of stigmatized and frowned upon, and like you can get labeled as being stupid or, whatever. But that is definitely not the case when you're on campus. A lot of times tutoring is essential to even pass a class, let alone get a good grade in it. So like, don't wait until the end of October when your grade is like in the air and you're wondering, how am I going to pull this out, to go sign up for tutoring. Like, if a class is going to, you're going to struggle with it. Like, I went into Chem 1 knowing that I was not excited about it, but I was not proactive about it. So I literally waited until October to sign up for tutoring. And I really wish I would have done it earlier. So like, know that, and then like not only tutoring through Holtz Hall, but like talking to your professor, going to their office hours. Like, the people here truly want you to succeed. Like, we're not have all evil professors who truly want you to like fail and retake their class. But so like being proactive about it and like finding a way to help you and find materials that can help supplement your learning like early on is going to benefit you in the long run.
Awesome. Oh, go ahead.
One more thing.
Go for it.
So like with the tutoring, like Whitney was saying, you don't even have to think that you need help to get tutoring. Like if it's a topic that's interesting to you, or you think it's going to be applicable in all of the other classes that you ever have in your major, like say you're a biology major and you're taking Bio 198, like maybe get a tutor and you'll have a better foundation of knowledge to build on. And you can kind of, with a tutor, it's kind of, you can kind of go wherever you want to. So if you're really interested in a topic, you and your tutor can spend a lot of time on it, and then you can be really good at that topic. And that, I feel, is like a more fulfilling way to learn things anyway. So do with that what you will. Are we good?
Are you all good on that one? One more thing.
Yeah, I have all these ideas. Well, as a senior, I'm so wise and have all these thoughts on how I should have done it looking back. But something that Alex had said kind of reminded me of another thing with that is incredibly important that people don't really talk about, is the foundation of your entry level classes, and that you don't realize that everything that you know your senior year is based off of having a firm grasp of the concepts that you learn your freshman year. And a lot of the times people generalize these classes as easy blow off classes and that they don't really have to apply themselves. It's mostly getting used to the college lifestyle that's important for freshman year. But really taking those first year classes seriously will really set you ahead of your peers and make you a standout in your upcoming years. I am done now.
Okay, so the last question we're gonna go over is just kind of gonna cover all the bases in case there was something we didn't talk about that you really want incoming freshmen or just transfer students to really know. I'm going to start it, but the question is going to be, how do you feel you adjusted in that first year? And what is one piece of advice that you want everyone to know? My thing, I didn't start this until my junior year, and my grades definitely changed based on it. One of my undergraduate psych professors did her research in memory, and so she always taught us how to properly study for her classes. And up until that point, I had always typed my notes. I thought, you know, the professors sometimes put their PowerPoints up so you can read them in class and go along. And so I thought, well, if I type them at the same time, it's kind of like I'm like writing it down and learning it more. That was not the case. So what she suggested was to handwrite your notes, even if there's not time to do it in class, if she's going too fast for you. So what I did is that, you know, I took the notes on my computer that added to what she had. So I wasn't typing everything. But then I went home, and those hours that I dedicated specifically to studying were just me rewriting them in a notebook. She said that handwriting your notes keeps it in your memory a lot better than typing it out. So that's what I would suggest too, especially those intro classes, since like you said, it's the foundation for everything else. So it's over any topic. Yes, just any advice. Social advice? I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, kind of social advice.
Yeah.
So my freshman year, I had one friend from high school come to K-State, but other than that, all of my best friends went to different colleges. And so it's really, the advice I give is to know that you're not the only one feeling alone if you do feel alone your freshman year, because I know that I had days where I was like everyone knows each other and like everyone's rooming with like their best friend and everything, you know what I mean? But then coming into my sophomore year now, I've just been getting to know my roommates and hearing about how their freshman year, like they also felt like, oh, I kind of felt like that too a little bit freshman year. That just, so many kids are feeling like that. And like one thing that I was happy that I did my freshman year was I spoke up during my classes, and I would be like, hey, you want to study the Spanish sometime with some of my classmates? And through that, I've gained friendships in my fields of study. And that really helped is, you know, like the kids in your classes might be feeling just as lonely, or their friends went to a different college too, you know, so you never know. And they can be awesome friendships and also awesome people to study with.
Kind of in a similar vein, I would say like my two big pieces that like really helped me get through, especially those like first couple of years, was like patience and persistence. You know what I mean? Like this isn't like especially me. I'm a first generation college student, so I just had no expectation for what I was supposed to do. in college, but I waited it out and I made sure that areas that I wasn't doing so well and I persisted and tried to get better in. So in the long run, just waiting it out a little bit and taking my time to do what I needed to do really helped me get through the harder times at the beginning, especially adjusting to college.
So I have 3 pieces of advice.
Of course. Should I use?
Hello? Oh, there it is.
There we go.
Okay. So I have 3 pieces of advice. First of which, as being pre-med, you have to be incredibly involved. But I would suggest for first year incoming college students that you should get involved right away, and get as involved with as many things as you can, because you might not necessarily know what you're doing when you first come into college, what you want to do, but you get involved and you get a better idea of what you want to do. And then getting that experience, you will definitely pat yourself on the back in the future in having 3 years experience with leadership in that club instead of 1 year experience just going to a couple meetings, and just being ahead of that and having that experience for your resume is just, it's key, and you might end up finding something that you really love and you get more time to do it. Second piece of advice would be know the resources you have at K-State. K-State offers you so much, ranging from tutoring to the rec center to there's hundreds of K-State resources to you as a student that honestly I don't know half of them, and it's my job to know them as a pause peer educator. There's just so many of them. I mean, we know a lot of them, but there's just so many out there. So just recognize that you actually get a lot through K-State and take full advantage of that. And then lastly, if you're a freshman or a sophomore or whatever grade level you're at and you don't quite know what you want to do, go with what you're passionate about and you love, because I know so many people that originally came into school trying to go for a major that will get them money or get them material things and end up changing, and they're on the fence or they don't know what they want to do, and they go through a couple classes and not really know, but they end up switching a year later for what they really wanted to do. So go with what you're passionate with. That's ultimately what's going to make you happy. And I've seen that a lot with my friends and my peers. So.
Whitney has something to add to that. I'm going to say my thing and then I'll pass it to you. But mine's I'm going to do one that's a little bit more wishy-washy because theirs are super concrete. So I would say as a college student, I think this applies to every point of life you're at, but especially when you're a freshman, don't forget why you're doing what you're doing, and understand that this time in your life is a super pivotal time. And so I would be really intentional about who you're spending time with, because you kind of become the people that you're around. So surround yourself with people that challenge you and push you and encourage you to be your best. Identify those things in yourself that you're not super happy about, that you have bad habits. This is a good time to change them, because everybody's trying to reinvent themselves right now. And so I'm sure you can find someone who wants to do the same thing as you, or who will support you through that. And if the friendships that you had before are not supporting you in that, maybe it's time to reconsider them. And then another thing, I don't remember. I'm gonna let Whitney go.
So I also have 2 pieces of advice, and the first one kind of bounces off what Matt says a little bit, but do not. Okay, there we go. Do not be afraid to ask for help. Like Matt was saying, there's so many things on this campus that people who work here, whose sole job it is to help students. The only difference is that in high school, a lot of times your teachers will pull you out, or you'll get flagged as somebody who needs help and they will reach out to you. That is not the case here. So if you think you need help at all in any area, whether that's academically, personally, with your mental health, your physical health, your financial standing, whatever that is, there are people on this campus who can help you. And if you don't know who those people are, that's completely okay. Like if you're in the dorms, you are able to have information on it. I'm sure an advisor or a professor would have information on it. So like, don't be afraid to ask. And the worst thing. Okay, there we go. And like, know that not everybody's going to know an answer, but most people are going to be committed to at least find somebody who does know the answer to your problem. And my second piece of advice is know that you're going to fail, but learn from those failures. And I don't necessarily mean fail as in like you're going to fail a class or you're going to fail an exam. Some people do, and that's fine. Some people don't. But you are going to fail to meet your expectations. So if your expectation is to come in first semester and have a 4.0 and you get a B in a class, learn from that. Like it's going to happen, and you need to learn to be okay with that and not fear it. But also be able to learn from that. And so like, you gotta be what went wrong? Like, where can you improve so that the next class, say you get a B in Chem 1, what can you do in Chem 2 to get an A? You know, so learning from those mistakes and learning from those failures and using it to help like you progress and to help you succeed.
Is that it? So yeah, that is all I have as well. So I don't, what?
Hello, everyone. If you're watching this to the end, congratulations. But also, so all of us are certified peer educators. We are a part of an organization called Peer Advocates for Mental Wellness and Success. So we are all people that you can ask for resources. So any of those resources that we just mentioned, if you need to get in contact with a peer advocate for mental wellness and success, we meet every other Monday. So our next meeting, I think, is September 10th.
Yes.
And it is by the Neuro Spa things in the Union, but we're usually in Union 206. If you would like to sign up for meetings, who can they contact for that? You can find us on Facebook. It's PAWS, Peer Advocates for Mental Wellness and Success. And should we give an email? Yeah, find us there. Send us a message, and we can get you on the email list. So, perfect.
Perfect.
Thanks for watching.